They say power is inherited, conquered, or seduced. But what they don't tell you is that often power was seized between silk sheets and whispered in the dark. While subjects knelt in prayer, kings surrendered to lust. Behind gilded portraits and family crests, history was being written not with ink and quill, but with flesh, sweat, and carefully staged scandal. Some ruled with swords, others with whispers. But the most skilled monarchs used sighs, glances, and forbidden nights as their deadliest weapons. There were no saints on the throne, only sinners cloaked in robes of majesty. And while the world gazed at crowns and coronations, the real power plays unfolded beneath canopies of desire, within locked chambers and perfumed secrecy. Desire was not a distraction from governance. It was often the very tool with which kingdoms were built, alliances forged, and enemies destroyed. Queens were given lovers like titles, assigned by weekday. Girls as young as 12 were sold off to powerful old men with cold hands and colder hearts. And kings began their day not with mass, but with moans. Their nights were ruled by lust, and their mornings masked by ritual. The royal bed was not a place of rest, but a battlefield. Versailles was not just marble and mirrors. It was a temple of seduction, a maze of secret passageways, hidden staircases, and silent servants who knew better than to speak. The Vatican, too, was not all incense and psalms, but perfume, silk, and secrets passed behind velvet drapes. This is not a tale for the faint of heart. Today we unlock a door that history has tried to seal shut. What lies beyond is not chaste nor noble. It is raw. It is human. It is power soaked in sweat and sin. Welcome to the hidden side of the throne. Before the courtiers caught a glimpse of the Sun King, Louis XIV had already completed his true ritual. Not prayer, but pleasure. Each morning before the levee, the ceremonial awakening where nobles gathered to witness the royal dressing, a mistress had already warmed his bed. It wasn't an exception, it was policy. Attendants stood silently outside his door, listening to muffled sighs and suppressed cries. When the doors finally opened, and the king stood tall in brocade and jewels, no one mentioned the woman slipping away through the side door. In those moments, silence was not only golden, it was mandatory. He had a favorite, Madame de Montespan. Her name dripped from every tongue in court, both in admiration and jealousy. She wasn't just beautiful. She was influential. Her bed became a throne of its own. Policies were whispered between kisses, and royal favors cemented with moans. Yet even Montespan shared him. The king's appetite was boundless. His mother selected women to calm his youthful urges. Nobles offered their daughters like sacrificial lambs, all for a glance, a touch, a chance. Some families planned their daughter's seduction as strategy. Virginity became a currency, pleasure a commodity. At court, it was whispered, "If you seek the king's favor, send him poetry, or your daughter." In Versailles, discretion was not virtue. It was survival. Every bedpost held a secret, every corridor a confession. Servants kept their eyes down, ears closed. No one interrupted, no one questioned. Because in the palace of the Sun King, the most dangerous thing a subject could do was listen. Louis XIV built a palace of mirrors, but its true foundation was flesh. Still think he was the exception. Catherine the Great ruled Russia not just through war and policy, but through the strategy of seduction. Her bedroom was more political than any parliament. Her chambers were not just royal, they were tactical arenas of power. Lovers were chosen not from nobility, but from beauty, vigor, obedience. She had a committee for it. They were paraded before her like prized horses. If they pleased her, they stayed. If not, they vanished. The bed became a test of loyalty, skill, and usefulness. In her private chambers, the walls bore erotic tapestries, sculptures of exaggerated anatomy, furniture carved with lust. Her nights were symphonies of sighs, her mornings, political briefings in silk. She turned pleasure into protocol. Her critics painted her as monstrous. Some whispered about perversions, about horse stalls and madness. But Catherine did not hide. She ruled, with her mind, with her body, with unapologetic will. Her defiance was erotic and her authority absolute. She had lovers in the dozens, official, unofficial, remembered only in diary margins. No one dared confront her, because her seduction came with sharp teeth. Her smile was both invitation and warning. They feared her, not just because she was powerful, but because she chose when to give and when to take. Then there was Isabella II of Spain. Forced into a loveless marriage with her cousin, she turned her bed into a battlefield of freedom. Her body may have been married to a man she did not love, but her heart and her desire were her own. Her husband preferred opera costumes to women's touch. Isabella found affection elsewhere, boldly, passionately, frequently. Her defiance was public, scandalous, and yet calculated. She kept a calendar. Mondays, the soldier. Tuesdays, the gardener. Wednesdays, the priest. Her lovers were many, but her children's faces revealed truths the king's did not. The palace nursery became a gallery of gossip. In royal portraits, the resemblance was questioned. Was that the guard's jawline? The page's eyes? Diplomats took note. Ministers gossiped. And the people watched in awe as a queen claimed her autonomy. Because Isabella's bed was not just scandal, it was statecraft. In a court that denied her voice, she made her body speak. In Northern Europe, Queen Christina of Sweden rejected every rule. Marriage? She laughed it off. Feminine duties? She redefined them. Her femininity was hers alone, and no man could command it. Her closest confidant was a woman. Letters between them still burn on paper. Longing, sensuality, rebellion. She abdicated her throne, not for a man, but for freedom, for desire, for self. She traveled like a ghost in royal silk. No husband, no heirs, just ink, passion, and legacy. Her name became a whisper across Europe. A rebel, a sinner, a sovereign of her own making. And then, Versailles again. But this time under Louis XV. He kept a secret harem within the palace. Le Parc aux Cerfs, the deer park. Girls as young as 14. Selected, perfumed, educated in silence. Their purpose? To please the king. Their childhood? Erased? They could not refuse. They could not leave. When he tired of them, they were discarded like old letters. No titles, no names, just whispers. They were shadows trained to smile. Everyone at court knew, but to speak of it was treason. Because in Versailles, the king owned not just the land, he owned the flesh, and the silence that wrapped around it. Now meet Lucitzia Borgia, daughter of a pope, sister to a murderer, bride to alliances. Her kiss was lethal, her charm weaponized, her innocence crafted like an illusion. They say she wore poison in her rings, that her smiles killed, that she seduced for her family, not herself. Truth or rumor, she ruled with softness sharper than steel. Her legacy lies between myth and memory. Was she a pawn or a queen in disguise? In papal courts, she moved like shadow. Others blessed wafers. She blessed fate with a glance. Her body was the bridge between rival houses. And then there was Ferdinand VI, Spain's pious hypocrite, devoted to prayers by day, devoted to sin by night. He who wept in chapel and laughed in brothels. He slipped into brothels wearing disguises, seeking pleasures the church would never forgive. Young girls, paid silence, velvet curtains hiding filth. The palace stank of incense and shame. Some he promised work, others escape. But all found themselves trapped, used, forgotten. He handed out rosaries in the morning and whips at night. He died diseased, decayed, disgraced. But history chose to whisper it, not shout. And still, the worst pain fell on the girls who never got to choose. Married at 12, examined like cattle, their purity verified like gold, their bodies, documents, their blood, signatures. Doctors searched them for hymens, for signs of virginity, for proof they were untouched, because their blood on a sheet was a receipt, a price paid in innocence. If they didn't bleed, they were ruined, unworthy, tossed aside, their worth reduced to one brutal night. The failure to stain a sheet became the end of a life once full of dreams. They crossed continents to marry men they'd never met, spoke languages they didn't understand. Their duty was to give birth, nothing more. And if they failed, replaced, forgotten, buried in silk and sorrow. History remembers their weddings as triumphs, but behind each painted smile was a child longing to be free. Behind each alliance, a girl silenced. Today, we open the bedroom doors of kings, queens, and empires, where flesh wrote treaties, where lust sculpted destiny, where the sheets were soaked not only in passion, but in policy. This was not just sex. It was control. It was punishment. It was power. Bodies became kingdoms, moans, manifestos, orgasms, oaths. And while textbooks speak of wars, maps, and men in armor, the real history echoed behind closed doors, in whispers, in shadows, in sheets. If this truth unsettled you, don't keep it hidden. Share it, because power can only hide in darkness. Subscribe, ring the bell, and join us for more stories that history never dared to tell.